Welcome everyone to this year's International Women's Day, which, as you know, has the theme of gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. So we wanted to explore this theme for snow leopards by promoting the role of women in snow leopard community conservation and moving beyond gender blind approaches. So we're really delighted to welcome Deepshika Sharma and Chibi Lamau, who are actively working in engaging women at the local level around large carnivore conservation in northern India. So Deepshika and Chibi work with the high altitude program of the Nature Conservation Foundation India and have an academic background in community development. So often many of our guests are ecologists, so it's really great to broaden the scope of our presentations. And they bring a special focus on the how of translating the ideas of gender and snow leopard community conservation into practice. So this really nicely builds on our previous SLN webinars where we kicked off the discussion and talking about the challenges, the opportunities, about making gender a real central part of our conservation strategies. So we're going to start today by hearing from Chibi and Deepshika with their talk called Women Voices from the Periphery. So during their talk, please feel free to write in the chat any thoughts, any questions, any comments. After the presentation, we'll take the first round of questions and really focusing on our guests' work and their main messages. And this will be a great opportunity to clarify any aspect that you would like to hear more on, because I'm sure they're going to share some very interesting gathering of voices and experiences. And then after this first Q&A, we would like to open it up to everyone and hear from you on your ideas, your projects, experiences that are underway on community conservation and gender, specifically in the snow leopard world or even beyond. So if you have some of these ideas you want to share already, you can go ahead in the chat. And Raki just pasted a few questions that might help you think about your programs and ideas you might want to share. So without any ado, I'm going to pass it over to our guests, Chibi and Deepshika. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Justine.
Thank you for inviting. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So I think we'll start right away. Deepshika, do you have the slide? So my name is Chibi and I work with SLT's India program, and I help them, I support them for the outreach network in the landscape. So I think just to begin with, I just want to say that I don't have any academic or professional background in wildlife studies or conservation. But bulk of what I will be sharing today will be based on my own personal experiences of working with communities on different issues, and my own experience of growing up in Spiti Valley, which is one of the priority landscape for snow leopard conservation. And I think and a lot of us who are present here today, we are already involved in some form of community conservation or studies of wildlife, biodiversity protection or conservation in various degrees, and we are involved in the work from our own capacities and different roles. So I believe that all of us would agree that to achieve any sort of larger conservation goal, it is really critical to engage communities on communities on individual level, and to engage with different stakeholders. So whether it's men, women, youth group, or anybody, you have to it is important to include everybody in the process. And from our experience also, we have over the past few years, we have retraced few steps back from the active intervention and sort of gone back to started proactively engaging with women and youth groups and children. So, and whether that means sort of taking two steps back and just trying doing everything from beginning, whether it's from awareness or education. You are doing it everything from the scratch. So we somehow started consciously doing that a few years back. And yeah, I think, to give more context about Spiti Valley, it is a remote high altitude area in Himachal, and one of the prime areas of snow leopard, one of the prime one of the primary areas for snow leopard conservation. And the area is very remote, and the climatic conditions are very harsh. And like any other Himalayan communities or communities across the countries, they are also, what do you say, the world of outside world and the domestic space, the binary that you have of the outside world and the domestic space, it's not so neatly categorized, because sometimes these binaries tend to overlap, because in context of Spiti Valley, the climatic condition or the geographical condition is so harsh that women end up women take huge responsibilities in both the spaces. So whether it's the agriculture or whether it's conservation work or anything, they take equal part or play a major role in both the spaces. And I think they share a really their connection with the landscape, or the wildlife around them, or how they experience what they think of conservation, or how they experience conflict is very different from what others feel. And but often these voices and these spaces are all relegated in a very smaller groups and smaller interaction groups. So I think and yeah, I believe what we have, what we are trying to sort of do through our intervention or through our work is to sort of bring all those voices and bring everybody, and sort of start from scratch, start from the dialogue itself, dialogue about triggering dialogue about, or having a conversation about wildlife, or how they think it is, and how they view their wildlife around them, the incidents of conflict, or how they feel conservation as. So just triggering from the dialogue, so that and those will I think those conversations or those stimulus will sort of help them, maybe in the future, help them with our own conservation goals. Because if you are you have a big lofty conservation goal, you have to sort of come back down 2 steps back and sort of begin with the initial stage. And I think after this, I'll just show some of the pictures of Spiti Valley for those who have no idea how the area is, the weather conditions and all that. Yeah. Okay, next screen we have. So, and yeah, a lot of families are they are primarily dependent upon agriculture and livestock raiding. And with the increase in tourism, there are alternative livelihood opportunities, and also how the general land use pattern, or how they their relation with the landscape is also changing because of the tourism related activities. And so all that phenomena is sort of simultaneously happening. And what's the next screen?
Yeah. Before Chibi moves on to
Yes.
talking a little bit more about our interventions, our current interventions, I thought we'll just, like she said, we took a step back and we realized that, women were not occupying the spaces that we were constantly interacting with. So we thought, and this was way back in 2013 when we realized that we wanted to engage more and more women. And this was mainly because every village or every community that we visited, we had more, we had our primary discussions were with men, and what we realized through those discussions were, most of these outdoor spaces are also occupied by women. So they are visiting the pastures, they are managing the fields, they are doing soil conservation, water conservation, and but we were not hearing their story, we were not hearing their relationship with the nature. So we thought, how do we bring this, how do we bring them into the picture? So we started the Snow Leopard enterprise, which was basically bringing the women together to it was main idea was to create a space for them to come together, but we did this through helping them sell their handicrafts and sell their craft to within Spiti as well as outside markets. So it started with a few women taking part in first few years, and then more and more women joining in, and now we are currently running this program in about 7 villages. And women not only use the space when they come together, not only to do these crafts and make these products, but also constantly use the space to talk about conservation issues that they are facing, and the conservation work that they're doing. So women, through the year, they do conservation work, like they create awareness amongst outsiders, be it tourists or people who are coming there to their village for work from the outside, create awareness between them about how they're not supposed to hunt and poach in those pastures. And while visiting pastures, they also ensure that people are not illegally taking any plants, or collecting any illegal plant, illegally collecting plants, so things like that. And they have been very actively, and through these discussions, they have become more and more aware of what is about their own space, about their own village, their rights to those lands, to those pastures. And these discussions help us, enable us also to one, to get their perspective, what they are thinking, how they are engaging with nature, but also constantly give us feedback of how we are doing in those spaces. So we remember this one incident that we were in our office one day, and these bunch of women come inside, storm in our office, and they're like, you need to take your animals away, you need to take your wildlife away, we are tired of this wildlife. And we're like, wait, it's not our wildlife. So what they were trying to tell us was that these ungulates that keep coming and destroying their fields and the harvest, and they were like, you need to take some action for this. And it was a surprise to us, because nobody had brought this issue up. Even during multiple engagements with in the village, we had never heard of this. Only women were able to point this out. So because we interacted with women, and we had this, they felt comfortable with us to storm in our office and tell us, complain to us. We were able to start an intervention to reduce those damages, crop damages that were taking place. So I mean, that's how it started. And maybe Timmy can talk to you about how it's going on right now. And we still continue this program, but we are also trying to engage women in more and more areas and more spaces.
So, so apart from the like elder women who are in the landscape, so there are a lot of youngsters who like grow up outside in hostels or away from their hometowns, and they like have like they even they don't have much ideas about their like ongoing, like what do you say? They don't have much idea about the land, like their own what do you call environment, or they don't have like, I mean, when our parents were younger, they like knew all these things, how to manage resource, how to work in field, all that, because they would live at like in home and sort of like inherently like know it, because they also take part in it actively. But over the years, a lot of kids are growing up in hostels, and and in order to sort of like further broaden the scope, we also started like engaging more with younger girls who are like more interested or enthusiastic. And so we began identifying close group of girls who would show that sort of enthusiasm. And we had like few, like 4 to 6 girls who helped us like engage with us on that. And we sort of like initially, like for them also it's a new learning curve, or for them also it's a new thing, because I mean, all these activities don't happen, or they don't get some sort of yeah, opportunities like these. And they were also very interested, because so we started engaging them, and we started we sort of did workshops with them around birding, how to do birding, and storytelling, sharing stories related to nature, or otherwise, or generally engaging children in like many creative aspects, or identifying birds or that sorts, because all these like creative endeavors or creative ways of educating or making awareness, it doesn't exist in city, because there's no, there's no bookshops or libraries or anything like that. So for them also it was a new engagement, and when we did it, they ultimately, when they went back to their own villages, they also engaged a lot of other village girls, a lot of children in the process. And I think the whole idea behind doing this was to sort of like give them the space and give them the channel on their own, channel on their energies and enthusiasm to talk about nature, to talk about conservation, or to initiate a dialogue, because city again is like increasingly becoming very tourist centric, and the whole everybody is like obsessed, or talk about the only talk that's happening is all about tourism, construction of hotels and all that. So in between that, we are sort of trying to in a very humble way, sort of initiate a dialogue or conversation around nature or conservation, when people would rather focus on development or some other work. So these are like some of the initial ideas behind it. And we also had the opportunity to host exhibition in the in the landscape. And the whole idea behind hosting an exhibition was to use this as a platform to talk about or stimulate curiosity towards nature. And even for the younger children, a lot of them, like they don't have any ideas about what sort of birds are found in the landscape, the local names, the relevance, and why should they even care about birds and other species found in the landscape. So it was very useful tool for us to sort of engage communities or talk with them on one level. So usually exhibition is a very urban context. I mean, it's a very urban concept. It happens in galleries or spaces where women generally don't exist. So we kept it very open-ended space, a place where everybody can access, like women, younger women, children, elderly, monks, nuns, men, everyone can come and sort of interact and share, talk about whatever they feel like, or maybe share incidents of wildlife depredation or livestock depredation or crop depredation in their own neighborhood. There was we also showed them a lot of camera trap pictures. And it was, all of these was designed to sort of in a very humble way, what do you call, initiate a dialogue about it, because you will reach the goal of conservation or the action part when you have when you start nurturing or appreciating the ecosystem around. Even during the exhibition, I think, yeah, I mean, it was a very it was a very novel concept for them, and the experience was very different. And we did not expect much, but a lot of women who have been with whom we have been interacting or engaging in different villages or scattered places, they traveled and they came for the exhibition and sort of looked around, and they had questions. They had they sort of took active part in it. And yeah, I think more than so these are some of the things that we have we are sort of trying to do. And all of these are at a very nascent stage, and more than what we have done, there's a lot more to do and a lot more to engage and a lot more to again go back to the basics and start all over again. So I think more or less just these, and we would like to sort of discuss with others or hear their side of the stories if they have done similar interaction or similar work and what's their experience has been. And if there's any like questions or anything like that, we would we would be happy to like answer and all, because a lot of things I couldn't share like over here, but I think a discussion would be much better. Discussion or question answer would be better that way. Specific or general question or anything. Yeah.
Thank you, Chemi and Deepshika, for sharing your rich experience. And I really like the focus on dialogue over action. That was a really nice sharing and how you guys are growing from there. Does we have time for discussion? So if there are any, as Chemi mentioned, any questions related to their program or any thoughts? I don't know if Deepshika, you want to add anything as we wait for questions to share about the next steps that Chemi mentioned?
No, I think Chibi kind of covered almost everything. And like she mentioned, that we are trying to, take women out of their homes and their traditional work, and that what they have been doing for what at least the society expects them to do for over generations, and give them a space to explore their other potentials. Like so we Jimmy talked about how we are trying to bring in volunteers, and we train them, and then they go around training other kids, and take forward the education work that we have. We are also training some of the women to become to conduct surveys, although most of the surveys that we have are during summers when women are completely busy in the field work, and there's just so much happening. So but we are trying our best, and it's difficult. It's not easy thing to achieve, because we have been doing this, we have been thinking about it for a very long time, and we have been trying to do things in our capacity, in our best capacity, but it takes time. It's a slow process, and I think it'll happen in its due course.
Yeah, you mentioned an important point, though, that a lot of the women might be really busy, right, with agricultural seasonal work. Is there anything that your team does to how to manage that or encourage participation when many of these women are really busy, even with agriculture, but also house and their children and their family? Any thoughts you want to share that others can maybe draw on?
Maybe, I don't know, Chime, if you want to take that, but I can start. I think one thing that also we need to be mindful of is that women sometimes are already too much burdened with everything that they have to do, and putting that undue expectation on them that they have to also take care of conservation. It feels a little, I don't know, but yeah, we do what we are trying is to give women that space to make their choice, that if they are interested, they are very welcome, and we keep so the education work that I talked about happens during summer, because that's the best time to engage children, and the women who have been taking part in that are young women who are some of them are recently married, so they have additional responsibilities and stuff, but at the same time they are making time through that, and they're able to take out some time, but yeah, we cannot expect everybody to be able to do that. So we are also, so some surveys that we do during winters when women are more relatively free, that is when we are trying to also promote some of these monitoring work and engage women through the winter, so that that they have time to do things and engage out of the traditional work, and be also available, not feel too burdened with it. So yeah.
And I think, yeah, what do you call? Additionally, I think personally, I view that it's like, rather than sort of focusing on engaging or like sort of engaging women, or like focusing more on that, oh, we have to include women in the process, not that. I think it's more important how we create a positive space for them. Like it cannot, it does not have to be like one specific intervention, but generally like the how you like how all these spheres spaces, like you have to like sort of carve out those spaces for women, whether in terms of like a representation or role modeling or anything like that. Because I remember when I was growing up, I knew that I was interested in conservation, wildlife, but I didn't know where to go. Like, what do you have to do? Like I didn't even realize that conservation is a sector that you can go and work on. Like I have no idea. So I studied literature. I have no idea about what's going on out there, but I remember when I was young, my father used to go out, and he used to go out for ibex sighting. Ungulate, he would click pictures, and I knew about SLT's India program for the longest time. They have been operating in the landscape for past 20 years. But I didn't realize that, oh, when I started when I did my college and what do you call graduation and everything, I wanted to like work in my own hometown, and sort of like started finding out internship opportunities or volunteering or something like that, and there was none of those. And I knew, although I knew about India, NCF's work, but I didn't feel like, I mean, it felt so, what do you say, uh, I didn't feel like, oh, I'll be a relevant player, or I can do something, because it looked like there's a lot of men, and all of them are going up in the pastures and doing like traversing like high mountains. What will I do? So that's sort of like, it's very male dominated. So I didn't feel like I could access it and all. So when years later, when I like sort of bumped across very accidentally the space or the specific role or specific role was carved, and what do you call the how you approach what do you say, conservation space as a like female with your different skill set, different experience, that I think will help. And with the young girls that we have engaged, because for them also it's a very new, and when they started going village to village and started engaging with the kids, we have like few more like girls, few more like people in the valley or youngsters who started inquiring us about what they are doing is something really interesting. How can we do it, or where did you do it, and what is it all about? The curiosity is naturally invoked, and that's how we want to have it, like the ripple effect of these things. And even when you are interacting with the girls' families and all, they feel much at easy, or like, they feel it easier when they know that like female girls or female team members are there, and all that, whether you are going out or anywhere else. Because so I think it's all about creating positive space, or like that thing, and generally like broadening it.
Thanks, Chemi. No, great point. So recrafting almost the role of conservationists at the community level and as scientists. I like that. So we have two other questions from Ranjini and Flavia, and they basically asked the same question. And so they're thinking along the same line, is about the challenges in engaging, or I think they're saying engaging, but I think they're thinking maybe similar lines as used, Chemi, of this dialogue, creating this dialogue. What are some of the challenges you guys have faced, and how you've kind of overcome some of those challenges in creating those safe spaces?
Go for it, Chimi.
Yeah, go for it, Chemi.
I think I feel like it's more about like mindset, how you view gender roles from the basic level, like what sort of spaces like men can do, what sort of like professional or academic like endeavors like girls can take and boys can take. So it boils down to that also. Conservation feels like I don't know, it like science also is a like very like what do you call male dominated. And if you like sort of like, I think it boils down to that. And challenges, I mean, like a lot of mindset challenges also, because conservation is a very unconventional what do you call work. I mean, you have to like there's outside work that you have to go, then there's a community interaction work, then there's a like lot of other work. So it's not a normal work. So a lot of people to conceive this as a like specific role or specific player, they take a time like it take a time for them to like grasp it, to comprehend it, because what they view conservation is very different from what we are like talking here right now. So they might be already doing it, they might be already like have like enacting those roles, but I think yeah, it's
No, thanks, Chemi. And Deepshika, anything to add to that? There's
Maybe I can
also a
take-
question from Flavia about language barriers. Maybe you can
Yeah.
draw.
Yeah, I mean, there is I mean, I think the barrier, I think, is only at the comfort level. They certainly do feel, more comfortable interacting in their own language, but they are very familiar with Hindi. I mean, like the language we can commonly speak. And so I think more or less that's taken care of. But yeah, they would any day would prefer to speak in their own language. And then in that case, like they're more comfortable with Chemi than with me, in very openly and freely speaking, and in sharing. Yeah, so that I think does have an impact.
There's another question from Mamvi. Can go ahead, Mamvi. Maybe you can take the mic and ask the question.
Hi, Chemi. Hi, Deepshika. Lovely talk. I was just thinking that the traveling exhibition was a great idea because it bridges that gender-related socioeconomic gap, which is usually a feature of these galleries. So I was thinking if there are other spaces where you could engage women. I was thinking of schools for the children, but from your experience, are there other spaces?
other spaces like so from like very recent experience, I got to know that women are curious about science. They are curious about it, they are enthusiastic, they want to take part in it. And so when we like discussed the idea of like what do you say, we were doing some dog census monitoring work and any other like we had a few of the some of the works planned. And like a lot of them were like what is it appealed to them, the idea of going out and surveying and all those things. I think yeah, I mean these are, I mean they can definitely like what do you say, we can engage them in like what do you say, different interventions and different works, but the idea has to be broken down and sort of appeal to them and in a like layer way. So because education, because people already view education or like role of a teacher like is the like more like female oriented work, so they are comfortable with that space. So if you are traversing outside, so the idea has to be broken out. And yeah, and then they are curious about it. And this, I think last winter like some of our ladies or some of our champions took part in some of those surveys. And you must have seen one of the pictures, a lady, she's like she has a baby on her back, but she's also like out there monitoring like counting dogs. So yeah.
Thanks, Mamvi.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Chemi. I love the idea that the idea of science appeals to them. So that's great.
Yeah, super. So we have another final question, and then maybe we can also ask others. I see there's Sarosh, there's Rajmi, there's Ajay, there's also was Nadia, who work with engaging women in other spaces in the snow leopard range. But so if they will maybe ask them some ideas or thoughts to come to the discussion. But before they do, Chemi, there's a question for you from Ranjini. It says, Chemi, would you like to elaborate a bit more on how women view conservation?
I think I feel like personally, I feel like since like women like I mean their lives are completely like revolved around like nature. I mean they have to do everything like I mean their lives are deeply steeped in nature in which they live. They live just like in the foothills of mountains, mountain foothills and all. So they inherently have sort of like have these capacities. They inherently are like what do you say, they have these innate feelings, but I feel the language or the diction or the vocabulary might be different. The language of a conversation that we use here and what they feel or what they say is different, but it definitely does exist. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's more, I can't think of any specific example for now, but yeah, I mean, even if when there's a case of livestock depredation, uh, like how the whole emotional toll or the physical toll it takes very differently, I mean, on women, how they experience it and how they view it, and their emotion, their response, their perception is very different. And it's a like mixed blur, I mean, it's a mixed this thing, depending on your situation, depending on what you have, it's a very mixed bag. Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy. So we have, so now we'd love to open it up to the wider, to other people here, and it's really nice. This is a small group, so please feel free to add links and things in the chat, but also to take the mic and speak directly with our guests. So I see Sarosh has a question, but I would also encourage Sarosh to share a little bit about what they're doing in Afghanistan, where they were working with women as well there through a few programs. Sure, Sarosh, go ahead.
Thank you very much. You guys are doing a wonderful job. I totally understand how complex engaging communities, and especially women and youth, is in conservation, especially in remote areas such as Hindu Kush, Himalayan mountain regions, which are mostly women are deprived of many commodities and well-beings that maybe lowlands would have access to. I just wanted to know, one of the things is that the activities that you have embarked on, are they in nature active, proactive, or passive? Because each one of them yields a different result, and each one of them engages the communities at different level and plants the seed of movement at a different ways, and therefore having an objective of what is the end goal, and based on that being able to implement these activities may have a different results.
Chibi, you want to take that? Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You
go
can
ahead.
begin.
Okay.
I can add on. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I actually got this one, but what I can say is that yes, I maybe if you're talking about directly or indirectly, because in conservation space, most of the activities that we are trying to do or we have done may not directly relate to conservation, and thereby those interventions may not be so actively pursuing conservation. But the idea for us, the larger goal to do these interventions is to hear the side of the 50% of the population that we have very willfully and ignored for a very long time. So I think the idea is to bring women to the forefront and then just start a dialogue with them to what is that how do they perceive in nature, how do they experience it, what is their relationship with wildlife, and these are the stories that are only coming forth only because of our years of engagement with them. And yeah, I don't know if I really answered your question, but yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. So for example, we in Afghanistan, we engage with, we divide our communities in 3 pillars, and we have got proactive, which we work with the schools, mainly ensuring that the kids, girls and boys, are engaged in finding solutions to the challenges that they're facing environmentally. And for that, we enable the environment through EEP, that the committees exist and they do and go a little scientific, or used to do scientific experiments, and come back and discuss amongst themselves and start identifying solutions for the challenges that they face. And that is proactive, where the community at a younger age becomes proactive. And then from there, the overall objective is that hopefully through the education system, the girls and the boys will equally end up going to universities or going to year 12 and beyond that, and engaging in nature conservation and science programs. And at the active level, we work with mainly women and children. We have got similar work that you do, which is go and do presentations. Majority of the women in the area are illiterate, and basically we do present in the local languages, but make sure that it's a very, very basic. With that, we also look into engaging them to discuss issues and challenges, things that they have not thought about it in terms of not only conservation, but in terms of all of society, what is missing from them in terms of judicial system, in terms of access to education, access to health, access to a well-being. Prior to doing that activity, we always conduct an assessment of a well-being of the communities. What is their well-being? What is their what we call it is a BNS, basic necessity requirements of the communities. What do they perceive to be a basic necessities, and how that actually links from services to products into the nature conservation and nature use. And from there onwards, we develop programs and activities that would allow the women and children to come in a safer space without too many male partners being available, to discuss not only conservation work, but also maybe discuss what is the major challenges in the society itself. And the passive is we usually target a certain activities, certain areas, and then do exhibitions, posters, and also do in some areas shows, videos and movies, so that they can trigger engagement at a different level, to trigger way of thinking process of what's happening outside the areas. And also in a proactive, in the past, we did what we call it as a exchange, where we have taken some of the women leaders from one area of Afghanistan. For example, we had a number of exhibition trips to Nepal, where the women had to go in a protected area and see how the women in similar environment operates. And then they can come back and start investing and becoming a force of a change behavior in the area. So each one of these methods of proactive, active, and passive transmission of information will yield to different results, and it will have a different target groups to specific objectives. So just, yeah, that's what we do in Afghanistan. And I wanted to know if this is a similar, and how you track these changes over time, because that's the most important part of it, to see how much of an impact this work had and changing behavior and creating a stewardship. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. And like I think Anthony mentioned, we hadn't thought about our work in this framework. But yeah, like now that you're talking about it, I can clearly picture some of our work being proactive and active, and and passive as well. So we do have the engagement with children, where we are trying to make them future conservation champions and leaders. And again, then even the exchange program, the exposure visits of women, we are trying to ensure that more and more women engage and interact with others outside their space, outside their comfort zone, so that they are familiar with what how things are happening around. And I think we are doing some of that in those lines, but I'm not sure like if we have the impact level, are we really segregating our findings? So I think that'll be interesting to find out what is the impact of actively and versus proactively engaging. And so I think that's a very interesting point. Thanks.
And Deepshika, you guys do actually have these diaries, right, for women to record some activities. So maybe, I don't know if you want to share a little bit with that to Sarosh, because that's a way to document engagement in some sense, or issues, right, related to nature.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the Snow Leopard Enterprise, which is the longest running program in our with women in our landscape. In there, along with doing the craft work that women make products, and yeah, we are able to market it for them. They also engage in the conservation side of things, and I think briefly mentioned it during the talk, while it is about women realizing, understanding their rights in their space, and knowing that, okay, this is my pasture, this is our pasture, and this, there is wildlife here, and we need to take and conserve this. And it's not like they have not been doing it, it's just that we're just giving it terminology, and giving it names. And so what they do is, every time they actively go out there and engage to say tourists, so somebody has come from outside, and they talk to them about um, the conservation work that's happening in their village, and also about not hunting and poaching in these areas, being mindful of the pastures, not off-roading, and simpler things that people from outside can very easily take for granted. Whenever they engage in something, they note it down in their diary, which is a register maintained at each village level. And then they, towards the end, they come together, and they discuss what all they have been able to do during the year. And that not only like, and this is what I mean by starting that dialogue, like something that they would have anyway done. They would Now they are coming together and discussing ideas, and sharing with each other how things have gone throughout the year, and what is the new learning out of this whole activity and assignment. So I think that has been one thing that we have been doing. And yeah, it's a one sort of a documentation, if you may say that, of women actively engaging in conservation.
Yeah, no, this is really, really good, actually. I mean, one of the things, sorry, I'm just clogging now the conversation, which is becoming a one-to-one conversation. I do apologize for other colleagues as well. This is really good. I mean, one of the things that you're doing is a called most significant evaluation, where communities through storytelling will tell you, repeat what you have been teaching over the period of time, and you'll be able to track the changes that you have, behavioral changes that has incurred through your education system. So if they are writing these diaries, that could be a really good source of actually a scientific paper as well, for that matter, to look at those specific words that you have used throughout your teachings and see whether or not they occur in the diaries. And this would be effective looking at the behavior change in a short term, medium term, and then you got a longitudinal analysis that can be carried out over a period of 4 to 5 years to see whether or not how much of an impact your work had on this process. I mean, you're doing a lot of great work in the field, and it will be an interesting paper to read if it ever comes out. Thank you.
Thank you, Saroj. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Saroj. Chemi, do you want to add anything to this sharing just now?
I just want to add that I think for any big or large conservation goals to achieve, the idea of conservation, it should be simple, or it should have different roles and different voices. Big. It shouldn't be something like something unconceivable. Oh, I can't do it because I can't do. If you appeal to people like, oh, you have to protect the wildlife around here, that's intimidating. You can't do that. So the roles and responsibilities and your share, whether it's active or proactive, active or passive, you have to use both the approach, and sort of that's how we do it. Researchers who are into hardcore studies, they will do the research work, and then there are women who are in the landscape, and they we can engage them on their level. And then there are softer works that you really need to sort of, I think, also take care that, because all the innate passion or the drive for conservation comes because all of us are at some level appreciate or are aware about the ecosystems around us. And so it comes from the appreciation and awareness, right? So I think that basic instinct has to be nurtured. And for the kids, children, that has to be like appealing. Conservation or wildlife studies about birds should be appealing to them. So it's about inspiration and inspiring and creating different spaces, I feel.
Thanks, Chemi. Great point about keeping them engaged in, like you were saying earlier on, positive spaces, not only safe, but positive. To end, I mean, if anyone has other, ideas or thoughts about their programs and want to share, please do go ahead. But I wanted to take also some time on what and ask Deepshika and Chemi and everyone here, Kustu, Gustav, Ajay and others, what you think we could do more on gender and snow leopard conservation in general, especially thinking about communities. I see that already Flavia is mentioning tourism industry coming in and those kind of stakeholders being also engaged in snow leopard habitat. So she's asking, is there opportunities on getting women involved or getting women to have a dialogue in tourism and the effects on snow leopards? So I don't know if you wanted to react to that, Chemi, on your thoughts, because there are some studies that actually show that tourism might lead to worsening off the situation of women because they often engages with men going off into the mountains and being guides and going mountaineers and so on, and the women are left behind and feel further hardships in taking care of the household. But that might not always be the case. So I don't know if Chemi, in Spiti there is a lot of tourism taking place, and what are your thoughts on how that might be changing or shifting the situation?
I think currently we have had few plans of like engaging with tourism, stakeholder, but I feel right now, I mean, there's the change is happening right now at this very moment. So there's like enthusiasm from different like sectors, and women are also, they want to take part in it, and I feel like they would be I think they would be, in terms of communication with the tourists, or if there's any violation happening, whether it's like off-roading or like in entering areas where they're not allowed, or just like impacting not just nature, but then if there are a lot of wastage issues and all, people are aware about these issues, and they sort of like raise it. Even in, like, at least in Spiti, that's what I've noticed. We have a community, community leaders and the village leaders and all. So they are also quite of like very active on these things, and even on like individual level, not just women, everybody is like sort of active. But I'm not sure. Currently, I feel like what you have said, Justine, that the tourism might be a backfire, or it would be a different like women. But then there are a lot of young girls that I see who are like sort of interested. They also want to become the guide. They also want to, they are good at communication. They want to engage. They are like proactively, like, I feel like, so like, I think it's an interesting phase for now, because a lot of things have not panned out. But I think, yeah.
Thanks, Chemi. Deepshika, would you like to add anything? Or anyone else in the audience? Feel free.
One small anecdote that comes to my mind when I think of tourism and women is just how women, when one lady from the village, she was talking to me, and she's telling that, when tourists come, I find it very hard to communicate with them. I was like, because they're usually talking in English, and I don't understand that language. So I was like, maybe you should try to teach them a little bit of your language, and they could teach English a little bit. So, so I think the language, I think, is one barrier for women to overcome while they interact with tourists. And if I don't know if there are trainings that we could do with women, and make them more, I don't know, just more comfortable talking in, or maybe not even talking in English, but just more comfortable interacting, and maybe also, passing on their language to the tourists, and more immersive tourism, if we can promote that. I think it will be there might be some positives out of that. So yeah.
Thanks, Deepshika. No, a good point. And we also have Jennifer that actually has worked in this in Russia, in some areas in Russia. Jennifer, I don't know if you want to take the mic and maybe share a little bit.
Sure. Obviously, it's a challenging time right at this exact moment in Russia, but yeah, we've been working with community-led conservation and trying really hard to engage the remote semi-nomadic communities that live directly in the habitat. I think that most of their engagement, especially for women, is seeing that there are women that come in as you know, not only as scientists, but who also volunteer as tourists to come in and participate in the data collection, you know, going on camera trap transects and so forth. And I think that just creates, you know, the opportunity to dream, at least for women in these communities who, like you've talked about in other areas, are you know, very burdened with their own responsibilities for their families and their communities. This is a really interesting conversation, and I've taken lots of notes to think about ways to implement this in our work in the area.
Thanks, Jennifer. No, that's great to bring insights from other sides. Thanks for joining us. I know we're running out of time, but I would like to just I know I like to call names, so just ask. I know that Ranjini probably has something to share, and then also Kustub or Gustav or Ajay, actually. So if you don't mind, I would like Ranjini, Kustub, and then Ajay, and even if there's someone else after that would like to say anything, please go ahead. It's maybe also focusing on the question of what else we need to do or what we need to focus on as we go forward. Go ahead, Ranjini.
I think a lot of it, I guess, like what Chemi and Deepshika were also saying, and you know, Sarosh was saying, a lot of it is location specific as well. So there are certain, I think, each community and each space that we work in, there are certain contextual factors that, you know, lead to different ways of engaging women, right? Like, for example, the same thing that works in Spiti might not work in Kyrgyzstan, just because the communities are structured differently and social structures are different. I think one of the most, for me, what I found interesting, and I guess what Deepshika and Chemi also alluded to, is to engage women, we have to kind of consciously do it, because we have to go to the spaces that they're available, right? Because often we're not gender considerate, I think that, or gender sensitive, I think we forget to go to the spaces they are in, right? And very often public spaces, they might not be as easily accessible. It depends again on the context, but public spaces might not be as easily accessible, the time of the day, and even who we are. And I think these kind of different factors vary from place to place. So it's, I think being considerate of contextual factors might be important. Like for me, I think while engaging women, what I found was, me being a woman myself, I found it easier, because I also found it easier to access these spaces. Because, you know, when we go to, say, like if you have a wedding in Spiti, if you were going there, and because you're a woman, you automatically end up hanging out with the women, right? Like if you were a man, you'd end up hanging out with the men more. So I think my gender also really helps gain access to these spaces. So being a woman, I think sometimes it's easier to work with other women. So yeah, so that's just been my personal experience there. In terms of climate adaptation, again, I think it's really specific, right? Depending on the region that we're working with, the different kinds of roles they have. Like, for example, in Spiti, the women have been really active with, you know, water management, or engaging in water management for agriculture and the growing of green tea, especially. And that domain has been primarily the domain of women in that landscape. So maybe, like, from the perspective of climate change, using the roles, the knowledge, and the values that women already have, you know, we can probably use that for climate adaptation in some way.
Thanks, Ranjini. I think, yeah, that and very much what Chemi was mentioning, you know, listening to them, hearing their views, starting from the beginning, not assuming anything. and hearing from them expressing themselves. Any thoughts, Chemi or Deepshika, to react to what Ranjini said? And then we may close. So if you guys have any final thoughts you want to share with everyone.
Yeah, in terms of like the accessing of spaces, right? So while deciding the location for the exhibition, one thought like we had a very random idea that we should do the exhibition in an agriculture field where women are working. So the idea was very distinct to like reach out to them, because if you hold it in a place where like some closed room or something, like women might not be able to come there. Younger girls might be able to access, but elderly women, like women who actually live through the live through the conflict and all, they might not be able to come because they're so busy in the field and all that. So that idea really appealed to them. And I think, you have to like proactively find spaces and curate it accordingly, and then do it over and over again.
Great, super. Thank you both for joining us. I just wanna, because I mentioned Kustub and Ajay, did you guys want to add anything before we end?
To be honest, very, very valuable discussion and excellent points by the speakers. And I particularly really enjoyed the conversation that Sorosh and Deepshika and others had. Maybe it's already mentioned, but this is a small lesson that I remember learning from when we were managing one project with Jeff funding and through UNDP. The fact that I think one has to make a specific effort to make your activities or programs gender sensitive. We cannot just expect them to be to become so by default, because there are financial implications that have to be planned right from the beginning. There are implementation implications that have to be planned and taken care of. So, the fact that a lot of times we assume that, we work with a lot of women and that makes us gender balanced. I think that's not enough. One really has to make that extra effort and that focused effort to be able to do it efficiently and effectively. So, it's simple examples, right? If you plan, if the work includes field work, and you have, many times I have seen some colleagues or organizations almost choosing a man over a woman field worker just because they think it will be less hassle for them in their limited understanding. Whereas all you need to do is create that space to make it conducive and encouraging and also, comfortable and safe for the women. And whatever it takes to make it so, I think that should be part of the planning process than a tick checkbox that you have to tick towards the middle or the end of the project. So I think some of these issues, we often take them that they will get adjusted without really investing time and resources in it and planning for those. I think that's something I felt, and I know it was sort of discussed, but that's been one of my biggest lessons in the last few years of having worked with some wonderful people like you, yourself, Ranjini, and Jen, and our team in Kyrgyzstan and everyone. So yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Gustav. And maybe like Chemi says, seeing those roles not as the same as male roles.
Exactly. So yeah, to make that extra, to make that extra effort, right? Make that extra effort.
And Ajay, please take the floor.
As a group and as a team, as we were engaging with women in these landscapes, we've learned how they view conservation, and I think that is very important because we would usually go in with a certain way of seeing things, and it was so refreshing and different the way they saw it. So that was a big big experience, I think. And the other thing is, I feel, which really helped us was to have a very diverse set of people, not just more women in the team, but women with very diverse backgrounds, not just ecologists, but people from, like we have here, people from development, literature, just allowed for those many ideas to come and to sort of bring them while we were engaging with different groups. So yeah, those 2 points. But this was a great discussion. So thanks, Chime. Thanks, Deepshika. Thanks for organizing this.
No, thank you, Ajay, and thanks to your team and everyone for joining us today. I think we hopefully brought International Women's Day closer to the snow leopard slightly, so I can hear it and them roaring in the background. But yes, as everyone's saying, there's some great comments in the chat for Chemi and Deepshika. Thank you for taking the time to share and making it such a more nuanced conversation and talking about the need to take time and step back and really listen. So thanks, and I hope we will continue these conversations not only today on International Women's Day, but throughout the year. And we look forward to hearing how the program evolves, Chemi and Deepshika. So please do keep us posted.
Thanks. Thanks everyone for joining in as well.